Welcome to the Revolve Recap weekly podcast where we help the members of Revolve Church deepen their connection to God, His family, and His mission. This is David McCumber, and I am... Oh, I read the wrong
Bill
line.
Lackey. I'm Bill Lackey.
Oh, you're Bill Lackey.
I'm Bill Lackey.
You know what? And we just had a compliment this week from your mom. She's like, you guys are professionals. You guys should be on the radio.
Yeah, but it's my mom.
AM. The AM radio.
AM radio.
Playing your
Local.
top 20 hits. Hello, kids. Welcome to Revolve Recap.
See how I did the static there in the background?
It was good. That was good. That's why we make a good team, Billy. So why should people listen to today's episode? I mean...
Because we're talking about warfare.
Nephilim?
Warfare.
Oh. I thought we were talking about the
Spiritual
Nephilim.
warfare. Spiritual warfare is going off up in here.
Yep. A lot going on. Spiritual warfare.
It started as soon as we all woke up. Started in the middle of the night. Started when I came in here and I got attacked.
Yes, so we're going to talk about Billy
Other
getting
stuff.
attacked by the spiritual, the spirits, and the animals. The spirit realm and the animal realm
That's
are
right.
both attacking Billy today.
And
So,
David's in rare form. He feels under spiritual attack.
yep. So,
It's a lot going on, guys.
stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
A lot.
For the first segment we got going on today is a Tales from the Road. Now, this is a Tales from the Road from a very short road.
A very short road.
It happened just today in the office.
It's true.
And you know, the last 2 weeks we've been talking about how much Bill loves spiders. They call them arachnophobia.
Billy.
Billy arachnophobia. Billy.
Spider don't like a spider, Billy.
So last week, if you remember, we talked about Find the Spider, and
Yep.
Bill does not like spiders. And today
It
he
was
comes into the
crawling on me.
office, making himself just a harmless little cup of coffee, opens up one of the bins for something, a napkin or something. We have bins here in the office with the toiletries in it. What are these? Kitchen utensils?
Not toiletries, that's for
What
sure.
are they called?
Yeah, spoons and stuff.
Spoons and stuff. And there, lo and behold, there is a spider, and he
It's
jumped.
like as big as my leg.
It was like a dime. It was like a dime-sized spider.
It was a quarter.
And he jumped so high. And Jen comes rushing out. What's wrong, Bill? What's the problem? And I said, I don't know. He's crying about something. And
is
so
not
they
true.
proceed, Bill and Jen. I should have been getting my camera so you guys could all seen this. But they proceed to go through this whole tote. No spider. We just assume it's Bill's imagination.
Because there was a spider web that was so thick, Jen thought it was cotton candy.
No one saw the spider web. No one saw the spider.
Jen saw the spider web.
She did not.
Jen, give a holler. Did you see the spider web? Oh, yeah,
right,
she
okay.
said. All right.
So then finally Bill lifts up the lid to put everything back, put it all away. The nightmare is over, and Bill lifts up the lid, and I see you can learn a lot about people in times of danger. In times of danger, you see who people really are. And some people run to danger, and some people run away from danger.
Well,
and
Jen-
Bill jumped 10 feet in the air like... Whose story time is
You're
it?
terrible at telling stories.
He jumped 10 feet in the air. Ah, spider! Jumps, and Jen swoops in with those size 7.5 sneaks, and she just crushed that spider. Guts everywhere.
What really happened?
Bill said, "Thank you, Jen. You saved my life." And she said, "No problem, boss."
What really happened is I lift up the lid and Jen goes, "Get to the chopper!" And she pushed me out of the way. Saved me from danger. That spider was gunning for me.
Phew. So
I'm like 95% sure it was a brown recluse.
nope. It was a black
It
widow.
was a common brown house spider. It was big.
It's dead now, and the bin got cleaned out.
The bin got cleaned out. Yep.
So-
It turns out somehow we have like 15 ladles.
Yeah. So if we're having an event here, sometimes when we do the hub, we do different trainings, we do dinners and stuff here. If you're bringing a crock pot, you don't need to bring a ladle.
And don't go to the dollar store and buy a ladle because we literally had 12 of the identical ladle
It was
from the dollar
all
store.
dollar store ladles because everyone drives here and is like, well, I don't want to lose my ladle, so I'm going to go to the dollar store, which is right next door, and get one.
Yep.
Leave your ladles at home. That's the moral of the story. Bring the chili, leave the ladle.
Ladle it.
Ladle it at home. So that was Tales from the Road. Billy, I don't even think it should be called Tales from the Road
It should be
anymore.
Spider Stories.
Spider Stories.
Spider Stories with Billy.
So, all right. So what is up at Revolve?
Sounds like a horror podcast.
What?
Spider Stories with Billy. What is up?
All right. So what's going on at Revolve, Billy?
What is up at Revolve? Big news, obviously, is that we moved to Lower Cape May Regional High School in the auditorium. And we're going to talk about that more in a bit. And as we're going through that transition, we are just hyper aware of the fact that there's going to be ample opportunity for division, for curmudgeoning. I know that's a word.
It's definitely a word.
Curmudgeoning, complaining, bitterness, frustration, attitude adjustments, which we think all fall under the umbrella of spiritual warfare. And so what's up at Revolve? Get to those prayer meetings.
Yeah.
When are they, David?
Well, we have 2 opportunities for prayer meetings, potentially 3. We have Tuesdays and Thursday mornings on the Zoom channel. You can go to our website and click on online bulletin. That is linked there. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. For prayer. And then here at the office, 5 to 5:45, we have prayer. We are really focusing on this opportunity for spiritual warfare and praying against that, like Billy said. Like, opportunities for division, opportunities for, just for the devil to get a foothold. And, Revolve is a very healthy, well-functioning church. And we don't want to see any division or any opportunities for the devil to take foothold. So we're going to get ahead of it.
That's
right.
We're
going to pray.
That's
and,
right.
Also, we talked about last week, if you want to come on Sundays and come early and just be praying for the service and praying for the worship time and praying for the serve staff and all the kids and even praying for the building, Lower Cape May Regional. It's a high school. There's a lot of opportunity for
pray over the school.
Pray over the school and the teachers and the students. And it's just a really great opportunity to be kind of in the community praying. So
Agree.
That's it. What's up at Revolve is prayer.
Yeah. Yep. Well, as you guys know, yesterday there was no sermon. Yesterday was just a wonderful time of just worship and prayer. One thing that I really appreciated, David, was about maybe halfway through, you just acknowledged that you felt like you didn't feel like yourself. And you said, I just feel like I've been used to being barefoot at the tiki bar, and now I just feel like I'm not in my sauce.
Just chilling with my homies.
And I think it's a really good thing to keep in mind that Revolve is still Revolve. Whether we're meeting at 2 Mile or at the high school or in a field or in a rental or a building, we're the same church. And so I don't want you guys to think that all of a sudden now that, we're at Lower Cape May Regional, that Dave is not some fancy celebrity now all of a sudden.
No.
I mean, he's not going to start coming with, just like a real stylish Viking haircut and skinny jeans and
tight jeans, like a deep V with like a gold chain.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
So
not wearing sunglasses inside.
That's right. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
Just like everyone else.
And so I don't want you guys to get in your head, where you're like, oh, I don't know, I miss the seagulls. We get it. 2 Mile was sweet. And I think I would encourage everybody that I feel like 2 Mile was a gift from God, time for us to have some really good family time with our Revolve family. And maybe the unity that we formed during those 2.5 years is exactly what we need going into this next season. So you got to put up your dukes, because I have a feeling if my 2 decades of ministry has taught me anything, that the devil's going to come out swinging.
Yeah.
And I really mean that.
Yeah.
And so I can't underscore that enough. But what we are going to talk about is this today. We're going to talk just about some real kind of like coffee table, kitchen table.
When we get down to the nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty.
And so we're going to talk about up, in, and out like we always do. Up, we're going to have some just casual chats about productivity.
Okay.
In, we're going to talk a little bit more about Lower Cape May Regional, how that went yesterday, give you guys a little behind the curtain glimpse.
Literally.
Get it?
There was
a curtain. And then we're going to tell you guys about some trainings that we have going on this month with our mission agency types or mission work type stuff. So looking up productivity. Can I set the stage for this? Is that okay?
Yeah. What does productivity have to do with looking up?
Well, because it's like if you think of looking up as this idea of I am stewarding my life, my relationship with God. It's like my personal walk with Jesus, but that also is like my family. I feel like looking up all falls in that same category, because as part of being a spiritually healthy disciple, you need to steward or manage your life.
Yep.
And so I think in the parable of the sower, it talks about how, busyness and distraction is a main enemy, right? It's a main enemy that chokes out our fruit. And so I think when you have productivity issues or you don't know how to manage yourself, it can really be, at least for me, it can really be an attack from the world, the flesh, and the devil to undermine what God wants to do in you and through you. And so I think it was like last week I came to David and I was like, David, can't handle it.
There's a spider.
It's a spider, and the spider's called busyness. It's got 8 legs of busyness.
I like what you did there. That's good.
And so, I was saying to David how I feel like I have no mental bandwidth. Like I felt like I have a big, cooktop that's just got like 20 different pots all simmering, and I'm supposed to manage them all. And I said, David, I need you to help me. And so why don't you share with me the advice you gave? And then I also talked with Ryan, and he gave me some advice as well. And it was actually pretty similar. So I want to share his when you're done sharing what you said.
So I think people often, look at me as an artist and as a creative. And, it's like typically you're kind of an aloof. You're kind of like, yeah, I just go as the wind blows me. But, for 11 years, I've worked as a professional artist and had to conduct myself in a professional way. So, I've developed a pretty good system for staying organized. So I shared that with Bill. And one of the big things that's been kind of a recent thing that I've refined is this idea of creating like a bullet journal. And what a bullet journal is, and if you've ever come to a class with me or have been with me, you'll see I have this little brown notebook, and the little brown notebook has basically my whole life in it. And just to keep it short, it's basically you're writing everything down that you need to do in an organized way, and you have your big things you need to get done. And so whenever something happens, you write it down, and then you plan for your daily tasks. So you know what you're trying to get done this week, or know what you're trying to get done this month. It might be a big project, building a website or starting the podcast. But then daily breaking that into small chunks and saying, what are the 2 big things I want to get done today? What is something that I need mental focus on for 2 hours that I can focus on? And then what are the 5 or 6, subtasks that if I get done, I get done. If I don't, I don't. Mm-hmm. And really, I think the last 20 years, there's been this push for multitasking and being, super highly productive, because you can be texting, you can be emailing, you can be doing all these things at once. And this is the complete opposite. Is like, I'm going to focus on this one thing for 2 hours. I don't want to be interrupted. And then when I'm done, I'll take 10 minutes and check emails or do texts or all that. So just really, I think the big thing would be going from multitasking to singularly tasking. What are the 2 big things? And for me, I try to get those done before lunch, because after lunch, you're kind of tired, but that like 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to noon time, your brain's still awake and it's still fresh. You're like, I'm going to focus on this, and then leave the afternoon for, maybe writing thank you notes or responding to emails or
right.
doing stuff like that. And so I think that's the big thing for me, is writing everything down. So, because what Bill, I think you were struggling with was you had 10 irons in the fire and it was all kind of up in your brain, but writing it down kind of helps you look at the big picture.
Yeah. I think what David shared with me, that exact idea of get it on paper. Don't get it on digital, get it on paper. And so maybe we can get a couple pictures of David's bullet journal or my bullet journal just to show you. But, basically in the beginning, we just blocked out a couple pages for like a table of contents or an index, and then number the pages. And there's a page just for future project ideas with Revolve, and a page for future project ideas with Discovering Discipleship, and a place to make a list of if you have to write a thank you card or if there's a follow-up conversation you have to have. And these kinds of ideas. And so when something comes up, you put it where it needs to be. I remember I read a book by a guy named Tim Challies maybe it was last year, and he said everything has to have a place. And it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have a place where you record it. And so then, it's been where I've been doing it only for a couple days, but I already feel like I know what I have to do today. I know that today I got to teach at Innovate Christian Academy. I got to prep for the Cape May County men's meeting tonight. I have the podcast, and I know if these things are like 2-hour chunks, 3.5-hour chunk, 3-hour chunk, then I can squeeze in the little subtasks in between.
Yeah. And now, so the reason we're sharing this with you guys is because 98% of every conversation we have with people when we talk about how are you abiding, how's your quiet time? Oh, I'm just so busy.
Yeah.
I'm so busy. So if we could help you to organize the rest of your life, you can have that hour quiet time in the beginning of the day or at your lunchtime, because everything else is going to be organized. You're not hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
And it's like you're going to be way more productive focusing for 2 hours than for that 2-hour task to take 4 hours.
Yes.
And then you don't have time to kick the soccer ball with your kids.
And if you're like me, what happens is you have too many things going on in your brain, and you finish one task and you go, what should I be doing?
Yeah.
And you have a ton of stuff, but it's like you don't know what to focus on. So Ryan shared a very similar thing. He said he's got this system in his office place where he manages, and he's got a whiteboard, and the whiteboard simply says to do. And every single time something comes up, he writes it on the to do. And then everything gets a grading of A, B, and C. And he has a little placard on his desk so that people can look in the office window and they can see, is he working on an A task, a B task, or a C task? A task is like, this needs to be done. It's main priority, and you cannot interrupt me unless it's another A task. An A task would be like the delivery truck broke down on the parkway. That's an A task.
Writing a sermon for you.
Right.
You're like, I'm focused on this sermon. Don't interrupt.
Right. We have to record the podcast on Monday. That kind of idea. B task is something that's important, but it needs to be done by the end of the week. And then C task is something that I really don't need to know about unless everything's done. Like we don't have enough Red Bulls in the cooler. And so he said, people know if I'm on an A task or a B task and you come and interrupt me because you said we were going to have Skittles in the vending machine, I'm not going to be happy, you know? And he said, also, then I know I get done my A task and then I can look at the board and I know, is there another A task? Can I start working on B tasks? And so it's very similar to a bullet journal. It's just that it's a big whiteboard in his office instead of a piece of paper that he carries around.
I think that's great. So take these things. If you have a thing that works for you, some sort of system that keeps you organized, let us know in the comments. Let us know. We'd love to try it out or tell some people about it. But use these things, like Bill said. We don't want to be choked out by the worries of the world. So same thing with your time, with your finances, with your with your talents. All these things, we need to be stewarding them well for the kingdom. So I don't think this is a non-spiritual issue that we talked about today.
I think it's very spiritual. And I just thought when you said that, it made me think of something. I once heard a quote that a budget tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went.
Yeah.
And a schedule, similarly, tells your time where to go instead of wondering where it went.
That's great.
And so those are tools of the enemy to derail you. And so just be aware of that.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break as we transition over into looking in. And we're going to talk about LCMR and our first week and see how it went. The highs, the lows.
The so-sos.
All right, welcome back. We are looking in. For those of you who may be new to Revolve, we look up. We're talking about how our connection to God. We look in, which is the family, and looking out is our mission. So now we're looking in. We're going to do a little family talk.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on with LCMR? How did you think it went, Billy?
So logistically,
maybe walk through the day.
Sure. So I got here at the church office around 7:15. Started loading up the truck attached to the trailer. And David was here right when I was pulling up, and we did all that. And then we, I guess, left here by 7:30. We got to LCMR, and they unlocked it a couple minutes before 8 o'clock. People started showing up to help, which was awesome. And we unloaded the trailer, and we got everything inside. And because there were so many people who showed up to help, I felt like even though we had never set up before, it went about as logistically well as I could have hoped. The obviously the most setup that we have is setting up the toddler waddler space, and now that we know how to set it up, I think we'll be able to do it pretty quickly. But I thought it went really well. I think that once we can get a real routine there where we have someone who's clearly in charge, and then maybe it's like you two people, you guys are responsible to set up the nursery toddler section, and they know they're doing that, they know how to do it. It can be a little hairy when you have so many new hands and people don't know their role.
Yeah.
But we expect that to be part of the process. I was very pleased with all that. I thought that everyone did a good job. It looked really nice in there. There were some little things that we realized, like the sticky tack wasn't working to hold the signs on the wall. One of our banner braces broke. But that's just stuff that happens. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for the most part, I was very pleased. I thought that I noticed what you called out from the front. I noticed that. Like, I felt like in my heart, the first 3 or 4 songs, I was really having a hard time. I felt like I was like trying to push through a piece of drywall. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like a piece of drywall that's framed, 4 feet, like at the seams. I felt like I was trying to push through it. And I almost just felt like spiritually I needed to back up and take a running start and just like plow through it.
Yeah.
And when we sang Raise a Hallelujah, I felt like for me, that was like when I broke through that drywall. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, something just changed in my heart. But before that, I felt like I was trying to push through this spiritual barrier. And I do think a part of it was the change of scenery, the change of location. And I also do think a part of it's spiritual warfare. I think that this is a real gift from God, the same way 2 Mile is a gift from God. But I think that God has things in store. I feel like being at the school is spiritually strategic, and I think it's a blessing. And I really feel like I felt like I needed to push through something there, even though it was intangible and hard to describe.
Yeah, it really is. Now that you're saying it, you're and thinking about it, like a school similar to a church. You think of a town. The school is kind of a central part. You have like schools, city halls, fire departments. Like these are like central areas in the community. And it was like 2 Mile was literally like on the outskirts.
Yeah.
It's like you have to kind of drive down that long road, and it's like kind of on the outskirts, and it's like now we're like back in like the city center,
in the thick of it,
for lack of better words. And there's just we are no longer under the radar, which we were for the last 2.5 years, which was great for COVID, because it was just kind of like nobody knew we were there, no one gave us any problems, we just
do your thing.
But now we're kind of like on the spotlight for the community, and there's opportunities there for who knows what. So for me, I think I was focused mostly on the band and the technical aspects of that. We had a pretty good system at 2 Mile, really basic setup, and the band, as a musician, for those of you who aren't musicians, communication within the band while you're playing, especially leading worship, because the way we practice a song isn't the way we play it during service. Because if I feel that the Spirit is leading in a certain way, I'm changing things on the fly. So to be able to communicate with the band is really important. And being in that little corner was super easy, because I could literally like
hear everything,
say the words, Bill, we're going to repeat this, or, go to the F or something like that. Where on the stage, it was like we were a little spread out. But there was still, I think, some communication. We were able to communicate well.
It was a bigger band than normal, too.
It was a bigger band than normal. But I feel like because that band has played together so long, we were able to communicate. And again, I think, it was like the first 3 or 4 songs, it just took a little bit to... So I'm glad we kind of did a worship time, because I felt I could sense in the room. I think it was kind of like after Dave Walker got up and prayed, and I shared. And I don't want to say it's because of what I shared, but even talking to some people afterwards,
you acknowledged it.
Yeah, it was like calling out the elephant in the room of saying, "Look, let's everyone relax."
Yeah.
And other people had said that to me afterwards, that was helpful for them to but that's who we are. Like, it's still the same people. We're still Revolve. It's not different, but there's something about being on a stage.
Yeah.
It's like all your life, you're like, if you're on stage, you got to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not what we're about. Even though the band strives to be good musicians, it's not about being perfect. It's about, honoring God.
Yeah.
Which should be bringing perfection. So it's like it's a weird,
but it's like perfection in your heart and your spirit, and I think that's the difficult thing is that, you could be the best guitar player in the world or the best, preacher in the world, but if your heart is in a place of arrogance, it's not pleasing to God. And I think that one of the things I've always appreciated about Revolve is I feel like, look, none of us are perfect. I'm not saying that we've never had our pretentious moments, but I feel like Revolve tries to be itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is the first time, like I said to Gina, I said, I've never actually preached from a real stage before. Mm-hmm. I mean, our stage at our old building was, two pieces of plywood nailed together. You know what I mean? And so it's a little weird for me too, but I feel like God has given us, I feel like we know who we are, and it would have been a lot different if you started on a stage like that, because then it becomes part of like your identity. Whereas I feel like for Revolve, it's like, man, we've been roughing it for a decade. You know what I mean? And we're just a couple of idiots on a boat.
Yeah, just
I
don't want no scrubs.
And that's it. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
So we're going to talk this week. I'm sure we'll meet as a staff here in the office with Jen and everybody and continue to refine the systems and the setups and the crew. So we appreciate everyone coming early to help and staying late to help.
And feel free to keep coming early and staying late. Yeah, it was a big help.
And once we get a system down, I'm sure we could get some sort of schedule and a team to happen.
Yeah,
and because there was a lot, at times I was even like, I don't know what to do. I'm just kind of standing around. I don't know what to do with my hands. So I think once we get systems down, things will continue to run smooth. But
agree.
I think yesterday was a good first day. The vision that you cast was a great reminder of who we are. I thought that was a perfect timing for that too, because we're in this new space and it's like, who are we? Okay, well, this is who we are. We're still who we are.
Yeah,
we're still this small church that's trying to reach the nations using the methods of discipleship, hear, obey, and share. Right. So, and then if you didn't know that, we got banners now.
That's right.
I mean, the stands are broke.
They broke already.
Which is classic Revolve.
We wanted banners, but we didn't want to spend a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Classic Revolve.
Yep. But we are helping, pay for a Pakistan preacher to
bring the gospel to his
people. So that's where the priorities are. So that's why the stands not the best. But all right, so again, just bear with us, pray, continue to help, have a good attitude, and we're going to keep pushing forward.
And if your neighbor or you are selling a trailer that's like a 6x12 or even a 7x14, let us know, because I actually we're gonna need a bigger trailer.
Yeah.
And so if you're like, hey, my neighbor has a 7x14 trailer or something like that, let us know, because right now ours is a 5x10 and it was pushed to the brink.
Yeah.
We can't fit everything in it.
Exactly. So all right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to look out at what is going on in the world and some of the opportunities that have been presented to Revolve to continue to make disciples. Welcome back to our last segment, looking out into the world. What is going on in the world, Bill? And we have something happening tonight, Monday night.
Yeah, sometime tonight. By the time this podcast is released, it will be done.
Yeah.
But
the old news.
Old news.
That's what you do.
News.
Stick around, listen to Revolve. We'll give you old news that's already happened.
That's it, just like us, old news. So yeah, we thought that we would take this time to let you guys know about some trainings. We often don't share too much about the trainings, just because we don't have time to sit around and do some kitchen talk with you guys, But we actually have a bunch of trainings that are launching this week.
So when you say trainings, explain what that is.
Mostly like CrossFit and stuff.
Yeah, like we're going to, Billy and I are
doing some WODs.
Yeah, we're doing trainings for CrossFit. No, so what kind of trainings?
Yeah.
We do in-house trainings. And
So, I mean, when we talk about the hub, we have like the hub, which is these ABCs, but those aren't necessarily the same trainings we do when we train like pastors and missionaries. That's kind of like a 101 level, and we'll still use the same framework, like talking about building relationships, but depending on who the person is, whether they're a pastor or whether they're a missionary or whether they're church leaders, whatever it might be, we'll mold and shape those trainings a little differently. But the idea is you're trying to give people simple, biblical, reproducible principles and tools so that they can pass these things on to their people so that they can make disciples as well. Mm-hmm. And so the hub is a type of training that we do, though it's not the only training that we do, basically.
So what's the thing tonight?
So tonight, actually, on the fourth Monday of the month, for about a year and a half, I think, there's been a group of churches in Cape May County getting their men together. And Revolve, I guess I went for the first time over the summer. And over the summer, we talked about identity for a couple months, how being a God's child, God's family, Christ's ambassador. And then tonight, we're beginning a 3-month, once a month again, 3-month focus on abiding. And so actually tonight, we'll begin this training. So I'll be teaching tonight and basically doing very similar to the hub content that we do. And normally there's representatives from like 4 churches plus Revolve. And so we haven't announced this yet. I'll be honest with you guys. I'll be totally candid. We didn't announce this yet because tonight's is at Revolve. And I was kind of afraid we wouldn't have enough space if all of a sudden like 20 people from Revolve showed up. But we did get a bunch of little invitations made up that we're going to start handing out. But we were scheduled to host tonight. And there's already probably going to be like 25 people here for like dinner and then study. And I thought, it might be safe not to like push it too much for this first one. So that was the idea. But I think like the next one might be at Lighthouse or a church that has a little bit more space. I forget the exact location. So that's happening tonight.
So just to interrupt. So this, if you know about Revolve and you've been coming for a long time, we talk about like a decentralized ministry. So we don't have men's ministry, women's ministry, surf ministry. The whole idea of Revolve is for us to equip you as a disciple maker to go, and your ministry is the men that you play golf with or the men that you surf with or whatever. That's your ministry. So this is a little bit different because it is kind of like a men's ministry, but it's the same thing. We are equipping these men to go out and go. So don't think that Revolve is like, oh, we're starting a men's ministry.
No.
Now.
It's not like that.
Still in a training and equipping, but we're, instead of just training and equipping our church, we're training and equipping some other people as well.
So there's 3 pastors, 3 other pastors who are coming tonight. One guy who's like a head deacon. He's also in charge of the men's ministry at his church. And so they're taking some of the principles and tools that we've been talking about with them, and they're using it to like help their church start small groups and stuff like that. And so they're all good guys, but it's a very eclectic group from around the county. And so the principles and tools that we're going to be going over this year or the school year at these trainings, it's like I'm helping and coming alongside these other guys so that we can all train together.
Cool.
So like I'm not training every month. I'm training this abiding, and then the 2 other pastors are training next month and the month after for abiding, pushing into that habit. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to do the first month of each habit, and then the other guys will like push into it more. That's cool. If that makes sense.
So we have Quest Academy coming up. That starts this week as well.
Yes.
So tell the ladies and gentlemen what Quest Academy is.
Quest Academy is an Arabic-speaking online Bible school that one of our partners, Michael, is heavily involved in. And they do a great job of equipping their people with this core foundations of faith and doctrine, and theology, and understanding of church and this sort of thing. And one thing they've realized that they feel like they want to push into is reproducible discipleship methods. And so, I think everybody all over the world struggles with this idea of what is reproducible, because our natural bent is to do events and to do big things and to do all these stuff that costs a lot of money. But 1, we realize they don't really bear a lot of fruit. And 2, they take a ton of manpower. And 3, they cost a lot of money. And so we're trying to come alongside them and do simple, biblical, reproducible. And so we're actually doing a version of the ABCs in conjunction with other leaders. Like David's leading one, I'm leading one, Michael's leading one, a guy named Peter's leading one. These various guys, Arabic background, Arabic speakers, and we're doing this training together to try to establish biblical, healthy, simple, reproducible principles and tools so that this Quest Academy can then leverage its network to spread these things, mostly in Arabic-speaking diaspora in Europe.
Yeah, so the things that we have been teaching you guys in the hub with these ABCs of healthy disciple making, you look at Bill and I, and we're just average guys. We're the elders of your church, but the stuff, the content that we've been teaching to you and sharing to you has really kind of got the attention of a lot of people, and there's a real heart for healthy disciple making right now within the church global. I think Brett would call it the Church Catholic.
Breton
Not
probably
the Catholic
would.
Church. The Church Catholic.
He would call it the Church Catholic, meaning the global church.
The global church. So it's a really cool opportunity. So, essentially what we're doing is the things that we teach you in the hub that, 80% of the church has gone through. We're sharing this with these Arabic churches, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So, and
I think we need to remember this, that it all comes back to the basics. It's like if you have a healthy foundation, if you have a strong foundation in your house, the building's going to be strong. It's the same kind of idea. And so it's just back to basics.
Yeah. So, all right. So what's next? We got, I see, I'm looking.
Yeah, we have another training. This one I think is Gina and I actually. So our first couples training.
It's a marriage retreat.
It's not a marriage retreat. Gina and I are going up on October 29th.
The ABCs of a healthy marriage.
That's it. On October 29th, Gina and I are headed up to this church in Garwood, New Jersey. And this is a church that I've been talking to off and on, I guess for probably a year, if not more. And we taught them how to do the Discovery Bible Study, and they've been doing the Discovery Bible Study in their small groups, and they're ready for more. And so Gina and I are going to go up and do like from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with lunch in the middle, just 2 sessions on, actually we're going to combine some things for the sake of time. It's going to be something on identity and how that leads into our desire to abide, and then about building relationships intentionally, where you live, work, learn, and play. And then we're going to do another follow-up training with them, I think in January, where we will push into C and D, connecting and intentional conversations and discovery. And so I told them that's fine because it's going to give them time to implement these things with their church. And so we're hoping that we can give them some of the stuff that David's been developing, like these habit tracking forms, so we'll teach on abiding, but then they're going to have 3 months to implement abiding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that just solidified last night.
Yeah, I think the most exciting part for me about this is that Gina's going to be teaching it with you. So, and once it's done, she can come on the podcast and she can share her big takeaways. Because I know everyone, Gina's been looking for an opportunity to come on the podcast.
Has she ever?
She wants to get on the podcast and and share with you all. So this will be a great chance for her to come on, and I'm really looking forward to having her. So just leave a comment and let Gina know excited
how much
you want her on the podcast.
Because if she doesn't get at least 5 comments, she's going to be like, see, told you nobody wants me on the podcast.
Yeah. So let Gina know. We should get that trending. Gina on the podcast.
Hashtag Gina on the podcast.
So
I like it.
There you go. And then lastly, Equip, New York City.
David doesn't even know that he's going to be doing this with me.
Yeah. Yep. Surprise. This is what I find out. This is like gotcha journalism.
Joan Calamezzo. Gotcha journalism with Joan Calamezzo. That's a Parks and Rec reference, guys.
Deep cut.
Yeah. So some of you guys remember that Christian went through what's called Equip. It's like a 10-month, missionary training. And a lot of it is preparing missionary families before they go on the mission field. And so right now they have like 10 people or something like that. 6 units that are at Equip in New York City, where Christian went through last year. And the guy who normally trains their DMM, Disciple Making Movements module, he went on the mission field. And so Christian suggested that they reach out to us to do the Disciple Making Movements training. And so I had a Zoom with the guy in charge. I guess it was Friday or Thursday or Wednesday last week.
It was Wednesday.
I have to look at my bullet journal. Anyway, so we had that meeting, and it went well. And I wrote up like a little abstract for them. And we're going to do that training, and that's going to be, I think, October 18th and 19th or something like that. So we'll be like driving up on a Monday evening, doing training Tuesday, Wednesday, coming home Wednesday night.
We should do a special edition, Vance Pants,
on
New
the
York
road.
City, on the road podcast.
Yeah.
We should see if we could do that.
So this DMM training is going to be a little different. It's actually going to be more in line with the first version of the hub we ever did, because we have
Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be a major throwback, because the DMM training that we do now is super modified for the American culture, whereas these guys are all cross-cultural workers, and so it's a different experience. So for David and I, we're going to have to brush off some of that old content and get back at it. But I'm excited about it. I was reading through some of our old paperwork from back in the day, and I was like, oh man, that was a great example we used to do. We got to bring some of that stuff back. Right. So I think it's going to be good for us, because there's some of those things that we used to do, like the cornhole game.
Yeah,
and I was like, man, we got to bring some of these things back, because they were great illustrations.
Yeah.
So so those are just 4 trainings that are all beginning in the next 30 days, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. So that is another just example of how God is using just our small little church to create a bigger footprint, within the Arab-speaking community in Europe, within New York City, within, the unreached people groups in New York City, different parts of New Jersey.
And our own county.
And our own county. So the Lord is blessing our church, giving us opportunities to share. And, and you as disciple makers, continue to go out in your communities, building relationships where you live, work, learn, play, and worship. And let's make disciples who make disciples to the ends of the earth. Amen. So, Billy, do you have a closing?
I couldn't do a better closing than that, David.
Oh, I got to do the closing. Final word with David. Go and make disciples. Go teach them to hear, obey, and share. That's the last word with David. Thank you for listening to Revolve Recap Podcast. We'll see you next week.